Good morning. It is Thursday, October 12th. My name is Nirankar, and this is our weekly check-in, superfood check-in with WildFlow. And I record the WildFlow part of this to share and to give away to those of you interested in how I look at health and wellness and the human body, and more importantly, nature's influence on our health and wellness and the human body. So today, I am drawn to focus on some aspects of the hips that may or may not, you may or may not have heard and felt into. I want to start by saying that I believe all health and wellness begins with learning how to and stepping out of the thought processes of the mind and into the sensations of the body. And when we get into the body, then we begin to connect with a more primal place within ourselves and our deeper connection to all that is. And this isn't always easy, because our tendency when we are injured in any way, as a child, as an adult, whether it be large trauma, small trauma, um, you know, my sister being born at 2, like it can be very innocent and very wonderful, and these traumas rest in our body. And so when we start to get into the body, then we begin to feel differently, both sensations of discomfort and feeling and emotion. And so then the next step is to begin to develop tools to be okay with that feeling and that emotion. And this is very this is very different for everybody. And I believe that one thing that the superfoods does for us is it begins to activate things in our physiology that and give our body nutrient density that helps to activate those sleepy parts of us. And one sleepy part of us can be the hips. The hips and the shoulders are two areas that are gateways. Because much of what we experience happens through our fingers and toes and feet and through the body outside at our extensions. And then the energy channels, most of our muscles and meridians and energy channels cross through the hips and the shoulders. But today we're going to focus on the hips. Another thing I want to say is that when I say beginning to feel into sensations of the body, it can be as simple as feeling the sun on your skin, the wind on your skin, the fabric of your clothes, the touch of a loved one, the water on your body as you shower. These are all ways that you begin to shift your existence, your sensations, your present reality from what is happening in your mind, which is usually thinking about the future or the past, to then bringing yourself fully present. And if you don't have any experience with meditation, or you haven't, this is exactly what meditation is finding tools to bring yourself to the present. That's why the breath is so valuable, because it brings you to the present. And when you notice how the breath moves, then it can give you clues to how you're holding your muscles are holding, how you're experiencing the world when you're subconsciously breathing versus consciously breathing. So how does this relate to the hips? The hips are so complex. They hold, we've talked about this pelvic bowl that we hold. Well, what if this pelvic bowl that we hold is collecting energy from our feet, from our legs, up into this pelvic bowl, and then it actually acts as a light satellite. So what if the energy that passes through your hips then is the gateway for your connection up through your organs into your heart? And so the more open and the more aware you can be of your hips, then the more energetically active your pelvic bowl can be. And so I'm just going to share a few simple ways to begin to feel more deeply into your hips. They're very simple. Many of them are enhanced by getting on the floor. However, they can all be done on your bed. So if getting on the floor does not feel accessible to you, then you can begin by the edge of the bed or the bed itself. And so whatever I'm doing on the floor, you can translate, or standing, you can translate into your own standing posture or the bed. So I'm first going to do some things on the floor, although standing is very important, but I think I'll cover that next week because that's just where my energy is. So this is getting ahead of us a little bit if you're not as comfortable getting on the floor or on your bed, but bear with me. So I'm going to move my camera so that you can see me. And if you've ever done any yoga or been making your bed and reaching across the bed on the bed, then many of you have been in this stance where your knees are below your hips and your shoulders, or your hands are below your shoulders. So this is now I understand that this may be hard on wrists. So the way to manage that is to begin to use this part of your hand and just go slowly. Your wrists may very well be the most limiting part of this exercise, and that's totally okay. You just do what your wrists will allow, because you can start here and then begin to notice by moving your hips, your weight left and right, or back and forward, or around. It's a very simple way of beginning to learn what the sensations are like in your hips. You can also look behind you, look left, look right, relaxing back. Now the whole time you're actually also working the muscles across your wrists. So if you choose to put your hands flat, as you begin to rock forward and back, you have a gentle stretch in your wrists. I believe there's a relationship there, but here is the most important part of what I want to share today is if your knees can allow it and you can begin to come back a little further and then forward to stretch through your wrists and then back through your hips and then forward through your hips, and bringing your attention to all the sensations that happen throughout that exercise. But here is a very subtle pressurization in your hips. Begin to imagine on your bed that you're spreading your comforter out. So in a typical cat and cow, you're quite relaxed. You know, you're not asked to do anything. But if your wrists feel like they're all done and you can sit back a little bit, even if it's on a pillow, then experiment with pulling the knees wide. And the subtlety of that exercise is extremely activating in the low part of the back through the glutes and into the hips. We spend a lot of time sitting. We spend a lot of time not only sitting, but reaching forward with our pelvic bowl, because that's lots of reasons for that. But what I'm suggesting is that when you begin to experience your hips, when you're standing and when you're sitting, that you begin to notice sensation that is activated by pulling the knees out. Now, not again, you want something to be against your knees. So as soon as you experience that rotation, then you have a different sensation in your hips. And this is strengthening. This isn't necessarily stretching, but it will begin to bring more awareness that will then feed a more stretching and strengthening relationship to your low back and the outside of your hips, which will then be a catalyst for all kinds of energy opening through your hips. So I wish I could see all of you in person to show you what I mean, because it can be life-changing beginning to re-understand how the muscles of the hips can begin to expand your awareness of your pelvic bowl. So for now, give it a try on your bed. Give it a try on the floor if you can, and let me know what you notice, because it's really more about your noticing the sensations in your hips and doing having a subtle change in a typical hip relationship. So yeah, that is what I wanted to share today. And there's we'll build on it next week, standing. But I want to hear if you're able to really feel into what it feels like to move your legs, feel these muscles of rotation behind your hips. Essentially what you're doing is you're taking your femur and you're pulling it out instead of it falling in, which is essentially what our femur does because of the shoes we wear, because of how we sit all the time. So I'm gonna, very well. Take good care, be well.